All right, so today we're going to be talking about properties of logarithms, and we're going to be expanding and condensing logarithms. So the main thing is that there's three of them. There's a product rule, a quotient rule, and there's a power rule. All right, so probably you're going to see it in expanded form, which means a longer version of it. So in order to do the product rule, you have to have the same base. So whatever your base is, if I have log base b of x plus log base b of y, okay, I would need to make sure that these have the same base. So whatever my base is, it'll stay the same. And because I'm adding, I'm going to take my x and y, I'm going to multiply them. So we call it x times y, which is why it's called the product rule, because product means to multiply. Very similar to that is the quotient rule. The only difference is you're going to see subtraction in the middle. So as long as you have the same base, if they're subtracting, we can combine them into one logarithm with the same base, and we're going to do x divided by y. This is called the condensed version. Condensed means make it smaller. All right, the last thing is the power rule. So the power rule is if you have a coefficient in front, and I have log of some base of x, if I have a coefficient, that is actually going to move to be my exponent. So this is log base b of x to the y power. All right, so we're going to use one of these three rules to do all these problems. So it says express as a single logarithm. This basically means to condense it. Okay, so if I see addition, that tells me to use the product rule. As long as it's base 6, I'm going to keep it as log base 6, and I'm going to do 9 times 4. So how much is 9 times 4? That's 36. All right, so now I need to think of how do I do log base 6 of 36. So this is what we did yesterday. We think 6 to what power equals 36. Now if you know your exponents, then you know that your answer is 2. If you don't know your exponents, you can just try it. 6 to what power, and try different values until you get the right one. So 6 squared is 36. Okay, so again, just like the last problem, it's addition, so I know I'm going to do multiplication. I keep my base as 2, but I multiply 32 times 2. So that's 64. So it's log base 2 of 64. So now I need to think of 2 to the what power is equal to 64. So that answer is 6. And again, if you don't know, try 2 squared, 2 to the third, 2 to the fourth, 2 to the fifth, until you get to 64, which is what we wanted. So the answer is 6. Okay? Now if you notice, the next two problems are subtraction. So that's going to be our quotient rule. If you see subtraction, you actually just divide. So it's log base 5, and I need to do 100 divided by 4. This one is log base 7 of 49 divided by 7. So it's always the first number divided by the second number. So it's log base 5 of 25, log base 7 of 7, and then you should be thinking 5 to what power gives me 25? 7 to what power gives me 7? All right, so 5 to what power gives me 25 is 2. 5 squared is 25. 7 to what power gives me 7 is 1. If I want to keep it the same, I raise anything to the first power, and it should still be the same number. Okay, when you're ready, flip over to the back. And then this is going to use our last rule, which is the power rule. Okay, so I'll try to keep this up on the screen too. So our power rule is if we see an exponent, it says express it as a product. So this means we're going to expand it or move the exponent out in front, basically. All right, so here's my exponent, my 5. So it's going to be 5 times log base 3 of 9. All right, so now it says simplify if possible. So this part, you should be thinking 3 to what power equals 9. Okay, so 3 squared equals 9. So this part is 2, but then don't forget you still have that 5 there. So 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, so anytime you see an exponent, it moves out in front as a coefficient. So 3 times log base 2 of 8. Now you have to do this part. 2 to what power gives me 8? That's 3. So then 3 times 3 is 9. This one, I move the 6 out in front. 6 times log base 2 of 32. So I need to know 2 to what power gives me 32? That's 5. So 6 times 5 is 30. All right, last couple problems. Now this one, number 8, is missing a base. So remember, all of them that have a base, you know what your base is. The implied base is 10. So I would suggest filling that in. Okay, so now we do 2 times log base 10 of 1,000. Figure out what is 10 to the whatever power equals 1,000. So that's going to give me 3. So now I need to do 2 times 3, which is 6. Sorry about that. All right, and then I'm going to take my 5. 5 times log base 2 of 1/8. So 2 to what power gives me 1/8? So we had one like this yesterday. If I want to move it to the denominator, I need a negative exponent. 2 cubed would give me just regular 8. So 2 to the negative third, that gives me 1/8, where the 8 would move to the bottom. So this is negative 3, and then don't forget that 5 is still there, so it's negative 15. All right, last one, we've got an 8 log base 36 of 6. All right, so now this one's a little tricky. 36 to what power gives me 6? Well, in order to make the number smaller, I actually have to take a root. The square root of 36 is 6. This means I can make it 36 to the 1/2 power. That's something we did back in Chapter 7. So this answer is 1/2, and we've got 8. 8 times 1/2 is 4. So your final answer is 4.